The morning my parents announced they were handing over the family bakery to my younger sister, I was elbow deep in sourdough starter, the same starter my grandmother had kept alive for 43 years. My hands stopped moving. The kitchen went silent except for the hum of the ovens. My mother didn't even look at me when she said it. My father cleared his throat like he was about to deliver a business report. And my sister? She smiled. Not a warm smile or an uncomfortable smile. A smile that said she'd been expecting this all along. I stood there in my flour-dusted apron, the one with my name embroidered on the pocket, the one I'd worn since I was 16 years old, and I realized something simple and devastating. I had spent 15 years baking my heart into this place, and they had already decided I didn't matter. Before I tell you what I did next, tell me something. Have you ever worked for years toward something only to watch someone else take credit? Have you ever invested all your energy into something only for you to realize it belongs to someone else? Drop a comment. Let me know I'm not alone in this. And if you want to hear how I turned betrayal into the sweetest revenge I've ever tasted, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our stories. This story gets better, I promise you. Grab a cup of coffee as we ride together into this story. My name is Olivia. I'm 31 years old and I've been working at Parker's Bakery since I was old enough to reach the countertop without a step stool. My grandmother started it in 1981, back when the neighborhood was just a handful of houses and a gas station. She baked everything by hand, learned every customer's name, remembered their birthdays, their kids' names, the way they liked their coffee. When she got too old to manage it, my parents took over. And when I turned 16, I became the third generation to wear that apron. My sister, Brooklyn, was always different. She was 5 years younger than me, the baby of the family, the one who got away with everything. While I woke up at 4 in the morning to prepare dough, she slept in. While I learned the recipes, the timing, and the art of making croissants that shattered when you bit into them, she went to college for marketing. She came home on holidays, posed for pictures in front of the bakery sign, posted them on social media with captions like, "Family Legacy," and "Grateful for my roots." She never once rolled out a pie crust. But she was charming. She knew how to talk to people, how to make my parents laugh, how to spin every situation in her favor. I was the worker. He was the personality. And somewhere along the way, my parents started to believe that personality mattered more than skill. The bakery wasn't just a business to me. It was the smell of butter and vanilla that clung to my clothes. It was the rhythm of kneading dough until my shoulders ached. It was the way Mrs. Callahan came in every Saturday for her blueberry muffins and told me they reminded her of her late husband. It was the high school kid who got his first job with us and later told me I taught him what hard work looked like. It was mine in every way except on paper. I never asked my parents about succession. I just assumed it was mine. Foolish, right? I know. But when you pour 15 years of early mornings and late nights into something, you stop thinking about the paperwork and start thinking it's already yours. That morning started like any other. I arrived at 4:30, unlocked the back door, turned on the ovens and started mixing the first batch of dough. The bakery had a particular quiet at that hour, the kind that felt sacred. Just me, the warm glow of the ovens, and the knowledge that in a few hours, people would line up outside for what I made. My parents arrived at 6. That was unusual. They usually didn't come in until 8 after the morning rush had started. My father looked uncomfortable, tugging at his collar. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. And then Brooklyn walked in, dressed like she was going to a business meeting, heels clicking on the tile floor. "Olivia," my father said, "we need to talk." I wiped my hands on my apron. "Can it wait? I've got 3 orders going out at 7. "It's important," my mother said. We sat down at one of the small tables near the front window. Brooklyn sat across from me, her hands folded neatly on the table. My father pulled out a folder, the kind with a legal logo stamped on the front. "We've been thinking about the future of the bakery," he started. "Your mother and I aren't getting any younger. So we want to make sure the business stays in the family." I nodded. My heart started to beat faster. This was it. This was the conversation I'd been waiting for. "We've decided," my mother said slowly, "to sign the bakery over to Brooklyn." The words didn't land at first. They hung in the air like something mistranslated. I looked at Brooklyn. He was smiling. Not apologetically or sadly. Just smiling. "What?" I said. My father cleared his throat. "Brooklyn has a degree in business management. She understands branding, marketing, and expansion. She's got ideas that could take this place to the next level. I've been working here for 15 years, I said. My voice sounded far away like it was coming from someone else. And we appreciate that, my mother said. But running a business is about more than baking. It's about vision. Brooklyn leaned forward. I want to modernize the place, Liv. New logo, social media presence, maybe even franchise opportunities. This bakery has so much potential. I stared at her. You don't even know how to make a baguette. She laughed. A light, dismissive laugh. That's what staff is for. Staff. She said it like I was replaceable. Like the 15 years I spent perfecting my grandmother's recipes, learning the quirks of the ovens and building relationships with suppliers, meant nothing. You'll still work here, of course, my father added quickly. We're not asking you to leave. You'll keep doing what you do best. Under Brooklyn, I said. She'll be the owner, my mother said. But you'll still be the head baker. Head baker. Reporting to my little sister who had spent a total of maybe 30 days in this bakery her entire life. I looked down at my hands. They were stained with flour, the nails permanently discolored from years of working with dough. I looked at Brooklyn's hands. Manicured and smooth. When? I asked. The papers are being finalized next week, my father said. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. I need to get back to work. Olivia, my mother started. The dough doesn't wait, I said. I walked back into the kitchen, tied my apron tighter and kept working. Because that's what I did. I worked. I stayed late that night long after everyone else had gone home. I cleaned every surface, organized every shelf and checked every recipe card. And then I sat on the floor in the empty kitchen and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was angry. Angrier than I'd ever been in my whole life. The next few days were foggy. I showed up, did my job and went home. Brooklyn started coming in earlier, walking through the kitchen with a clipboard, taking notes and talking about optimizing workflow and reducing waste. She hired a consultant. A man in an expensive suit who knew nothing about baking but had a lot to say about profit margins. One afternoon, Brooklyn cornered me near the walk-in fridge. I know this is hard for you, she said. But I really think we can make this work. You're incredible at what you do, Liv. I need you. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She believed what she was saying and she genuinely thought she was being generous to have let me stay and work in the place I'd built. Sure, I said. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last 15 years. Every early morning. Every burned batch I'd redone. Every holiday I'd spend in the kitchen instead of with friends, and every time a customer told me my cinnamon rolls were the best they'd ever had. And I realized something. I didn't need their bakery. I could build my own. The thought was terrifying, thrilling and completely insane. But once it entered my mind, I couldn't let it go. I started planning the next morning. Before heading to the bakery, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and started writing. Recipes, suppliers, costs and location. I knew every vendor we used, every distributor, every trick for keeping costs down. I knew what worked and what didn't. I had 15 years of knowledge they couldn't take away from me. Within a week I had a business plan. Rough but real. Within 2 weeks I'd contacted a real estate agent. And within 3 weeks I'd found it. A small storefront. 2 blocks away from Parker's Bakery. Empty for 6 months but affordable and perfect. I signed the lease the same day Brooklyn officially took ownership of the family business. I didn't tell anyone. I kept working at Parker's for another month. Every morning I showed up, baked, smiled and took Brooklyn's notes about improvement opportunities. I watched her change the menu, cutting my grandmother's recipes to make room for trendy items she'd seen on Instagram. I watched her hire new staff, people who didn't know the difference between proofing and proving. And every night I went to my new space and built my bakery. I painted the walls myself. Soft cream with dark wood accents. I installed shelves, arranged the kitchen and set up the ovens. I called in favors from old suppliers, the ones who'd worked with my grandmother. I perfected my recipes, testing them over and over until they were flawless. I named it Graham's Kitchen. Simple and honest. The day before my grand opening, I walked into Parker's Bakery for the last time. Brooklyn was at the counter, scrolling through her phone. My parents were in the back office. I untied my apron, folded it neatly and placed it on the counter. "What are you doing?" Brooklyn asked. "I'm done," I said. "Done with what?" Working here. Her face went pale. You can't just quit. We have orders. We have. I gave you a month to find someone else, I said calmly. My father came out of the office. Olivia, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Where will you go? My mother asked. I smiled. 2 blocks east. Grand opening tomorrow. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. Brooklyn's face shifted from confusion to anger in seconds. You can't do that. I already did, I said. My father stepped forward. Olivia, this is our neighborhood. Our customers. You can't just what? I interrupted. Start my own business? Use the skills you taught me? Compete fairly. This is family, my mother said, her voice shaking. Exactly, I said. And families are supposed to support each other. But you chose Brooklyn. So now she has to prove she can run a bakery without me. I walked toward the door. Brooklyn called after me. You're making a huge mistake and you'll fail. No one's going to choose some random new place over a 40-year legacy. I turned back one last time. We'll see. The next morning I opened the doors to Graham's kitchen at 6 a.m. sharp. The sign outside was hand-painted, warm and inviting. The windows were spotless. Inside, the display cases were filled with everything I'd spent 15 years perfecting. Sourdough loaves with crackling crusts, croissants that shattered into buttery layers, cinnamon rolls glazed to perfection, my grandmother's famous blueberry muffins and chocolate chip cookies that were crispy on the edges and soft in the middle. I'd sent personal invitations to 50 of Parker's most loyal customers. Not to poach them. Just to let them know where I'd be. Mrs. Callahan was my first customer. She walked in at 6:15, looked around with wide eyes and smiled so big I thought she might cry. Oh, Olivia, she said. This is beautiful. Thank you, I said. Blueberry muffin? You know it. By 7 a.m. there was a line out the door. By 8 a.m. I'd sold out of croissants. By 9 a.m. word was spreading. People weren't just coming for the baked goods. They were coming because they remembered me. They remembered the girl who knew their orders by heart, who asked about their families, who stayed late to make sure a birthday cake was perfect. They'd been loyal to Parker's Bakery because of the people, not the name. And I was the person they remembered. I worked nonstop that first day. My arms ached and my feet throbbed. But every time the door chimed and another familiar face walked in, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Joy. Around 2 p.m. I saw Brooklyn walk past the window. She didn't come in. She just stood there staring at the line of people waiting to order. Her face was unreadable. Then she turned and walked away. That night I counted the register. I'd made more in one day than I'd ever made in a week at Parker's. Not because I was charging more. Because people kept coming back, buying extra and telling their friends. I went home, collapsed on my couch and slept for 12 hours straight. The second week was harder. Brooklyn started a social media campaign, posting about the original Parker's Bakery and family recipes passed down through generations. She ran promotions, discounts, buy one get one deals. She even hired a photographer to take pictures of the storefront with warm filters and nostalgic captions. It worked for a bit. Some customers went back, curious about the changes and wondering if Brooklyn had really improved things. But they came back to me, because Brooklyn had changed the recipes. She'd swapped my grandmother's carefully balanced formulas for cheaper ingredients. The sourdough wasn't the same. The croissants were dense. The muffins were dry and she'd prioritized Instagram-worthy presentation over taste, and people noticed. One morning Mr. Peterson, a regular who'd been coming to Parker's since before I was born, walked into Graham's kitchen with a bag from Parker's Bakery. I need you to settle something, he said. This croissant doesn't taste right. Did they change the recipe? I looked at the croissant. Too pale. Underproofed and wrong butter ratio. Yeah, I said. They did. He shook his head. That's a shame. Your grandmother would have been furious. She would have, I agreed. He bought 6 croissants from me and left Parker's bag on the counter. Tell them they lost a 40-year customer. That kept happening. One by one, the people who'd built Parker's into what it was, people who remembered my grandmother, who'd watched me grow up behind that counter, made the choice. And most of them chose me. Brooklyn called me 3 weeks after my opening. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Liv, we need to talk. This isn't fair. You're stealing our customers and you're ruining everything Dad and Mom built. Just call me back. Please. I deleted it. My mother called next. Olivia, please. Brooklyn is struggling. Can't you two figure out a way to work together? She didn't want to work with me, I said. She wanted me to work for her. There's a difference. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter, I said. But that didn't matter when you handed her everything I built. My mother was quiet for a long moment. We thought we were doing the right thing. For who? I asked. She didn't answer. By the end of the first month, Graham's Kitchen was thriving. I'd hired 2 part-time employees, both young women who reminded me of myself at their age. Hungry to learn, passionate about baking and willing to show up before dawn. I taught them everything. Not because I had to, but because that's what my grandmother would have done and that's what the craft deserved. Parker's Bakery, on the other hand, was struggling. I heard it through the neighborhood grapevine. Brooklyn had fired one of the longtime employees for not adapting to new standards. She'd switched suppliers to save money and the quality showed. The Instagram posts got fewer likes. The promotions got more desperate. One evening, I was closing up when my father walked in. He looked older than I remembered. Can we talk? He asked. I wiped down the counter. Sure. He sat at one of the small tables and looked around. This place is really something, Liv. Your grandmother would have loved it. I know. I made a mistake, he said quietly. I stopped wiping and turned to face him. I thought Brooklyn needed the opportunity more than you did, he continued. You were always so capable. So independent, and I thought you'd be fine no matter what. But Brooklyn, she needed the structure. So you gave her mine, I said. Yes. His voice cracked. And I'm sorry. I wanted to feel vindicated and I wanted his apology to fix something. But it just felt hollow. Dad, I said slowly, I didn't need you to give me anything. I need you to see me and value what I've already given. He nodded. He didn't argue. Brooklyn's talking about selling, he said after a moment. She can't make the numbers work. The customers aren't coming back. That's not my problem. I know. He stood up. I just thought you should know. And I wanted to say, I'm proud of you. I should have said that a long time ago. He left before I could respond. 3 months after I opened Graham's Kitchen, Parker's Bakery closed its doors. Not dramatically, not even with a big announcement. Just quietly, one Tuesday morning, a closed sign appeared in the window. Then a for-lease sign a week later. Brooklyn moved out of state and took a marketing job in another city. We haven't spoken since. My parents sold the building and used the money to retire. They stop by Graham's Kitchen sometimes, awkward and apologetic. I'm polite. I serve them coffee. But things aren't the same. Maybe they never will be. But here's what matters. Graham's Kitchen isn't just surviving. It's thriving every day. I've expanded twice. Hired 8 employees. Started doing custom wedding cakes and catering. I'm teaching baking classes on weekends the same way my grandmother taught me. People bring their kids, their grandkids, and I show them how to fold butter into dough, how to know when bread is ready by the sound it makes when you tap the crust. Last month, Mrs. Callahan brought me a photo. It was from 30 years ago, my grandmother standing in front of Parker's Bakery, holding a tray of blueberry muffins, smiling that same smile I remember from my childhood. She'd be so proud of you, Mrs. Callahan said. I put the photo on the wall behind the register. Right next to my business license, my health permit, and the first dollar I ever made at Graham's Kitchen. Some nights, after everyone's gone home and I'm prepping dough for the next morning, I think about that day in the conference room. The day my parents chose Brooklyn. The day they thought I'd just accept it and keep working in her shadow. And I think about how close I came to doing exactly that. But I didn't. I took off the apron they expected me to wear forever, walked out, and built something they never thought I could. Not to punish them or prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. 6 months in, something unexpected happened. A food blogger came through town, one of those Instagram people with 500,000 followers who travels around reviewing small businesses. She posted about Graham's Kitchen. Called it, a hidden gem with the best sourdough outside of San Francisco, and, the kind of place that reminds you why bakeries matter. The post went viral. Suddenly, people were driving from 2 towns over just to try my cinnamon rolls. Food magazines called for interviews. A local TV station did a feature. I was getting calls about franchising opportunities, business partnerships, and investors who wanted in. I turned them all down. Because this wasn't about empire building. It was about doing what I loved the way I wanted to do it. Small, personal, and real. But the attention did one thing I didn't expect. It forced Brooklyn to see what she'd lost. She called me one night. Late. I almost didn't answer. Liv, she said. Her voice sounded small. I saw the article. The one in the food magazine. Hey, I said. She paused. I didn't think you'd actually make it. I thought you'd come back after a few weeks and I thought you needed us. I didn't need you, I said. I needed to be valued. There's a difference. I know that now. Another pause. I ruined everything, didn't I? I could have said yes. Could have listed every mistake she made, every customer she lost, every shortcut she took that destroyed what took 40 years to build. But I didn't. You made choices, I said. We all did. Do you hate me? She asked. I thought about it. I really thought about it. No, I said finally. I don't hate you. But I don't trust you either. And I'm not interested in fixing what you broke. Fair enough, she whispered. We haven't spoken since. Here's what no one tells you about revenge. The best kind isn't loud. It isn't dramatic and it doesn't require confrontation or cruelty. The best revenge is building something so undeniably good that it speaks for itself. Every morning when I unlock the doors to Graham's kitchen, I think about my grandmother. About the way she treated every customer like family, every loaf of bread like it mattered. I think about the hours I spent watching her work, learning not just recipes but respect for the craft. And I think about how my parents almost took that away from me by handing it to someone who saw it as an opportunity instead of a calling. But they didn't take it. Because it was never theirs to give. It was mine and always was. Last week, a young woman came in asking if we were hiring. She was 17 just like I was when I started. She told me she'd been following the bakery on social media, that she loved baking but didn't know where to learn properly. I hired her on the spot. Now she shows up at 4:30 in the morning, wide-eyed and eager, asking questions about hydration ratios and fermentation times. I teach her the same way my grandmother taught me. Patiently, thoroughly, and with respect. Because that's what legacy actually means. Not a name on a building, not even ownership papers or business degrees. Legacy is what you pass down through your hands, your heart, and your willingness to see value in the work itself. Brooklyn got the bakery. But I got the legacy. And in the end, that's the only thing that matters. If you've ever been overlooked and underestimated or told you weren't enough, let this story be your reminder. Their limitations aren't your ceiling. Their choices don't define your worth. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away from the table they set for you and build your own. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you want more stories about people who turned betrayal into triumph, hit that subscribe button, like and share this video with someone. Because I've got more to share. And trust me, the next one's even better.